Welcome to the Storybook Africa podcast, a sanctuary of inspiration and transformation for the vibrant youth of Africa. Through the power of stories, we weave together the threads of resilience, hope, and cultural heritage, empowering young Africans to embrace their unique journeys with courage and confidence. From the sweeping savannas to the bright cities to the remote villages, each episode invites you to explore the diverse contexts that shape the extraordinary experiences and visions of Africa's youth. So, sit back, relax, and let us transport you through the heart of Africa, where lions roar, drums beat, and beautiful life happens, birthing tales of wisdom that foster healing, growth, and development.
Hello. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good night, depending on where you're joining us from. I am joining you from Nairobi, Kenya. A very, I would say, tepid Nairobi, Kenya. Is not cold, is not hot. It's just in the middle, but it's definitely looking bright and sort of tantalizing because I'm inside the house. I'm happy to be home. I just came in from Ethiopia a couple of days ago, and hey, it's end of month. I'm happy to be celebrating Easter with my family. So, what's up? What are you guys up to? What's going on? Are you traveling? Are you just chilling with your family? What's up? How are you celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, the Lord and Savior? Let us know. So I'm in the living room, and in my mom's house, we have our three dogs. So I hope that they don't start tripping, but if they do, celebrate with me because we love life. I feel very privileged and honored to see yet the end of another month. It's just one day left to the end of Q1. Can you believe that? At the storybook, we've been talking about love and connections, and the theme for the year is what really matters. So I hope you've been with us through the previous seasons, the previous episodes, and just navigating different conversations, some difficult, some not so difficult. But yet again, I'm here with two questions. This time I picked two questions, and the topic we'll be talking about is ending chapters with grace. Ooh. I have not been the best person to end chapters with grace, and frankly, sometimes there's just too much drama, too much telemundo going on, and we end up just not being able to do that. So, anyway, we'll look at two questions. One is from Abu Bakr from Senegal. This question was submitted in French, so we did the Google translation. And I hope it will render correctly, Abu Bakr. If it doesn't, please feel free to write to us and let us know. So I am nervous. This is what he says. I'm nervous about the changes that I've made happen in my life and others that are happening naturally. I'm changing careers and lifestyle, which is causing changes in how I feel about some relationships and responsibilities I used to play in other people's lives. How can one shift in friendships and other connections without burning bridges? Thank you for that question, Abu Bakr. And I don't know that you can always end or make shifts in friendships and connections without burning bridges. But I think this is where grace comes in. Sometimes you have to extend grace to yourself, and sometimes you extend grace to the people that you're sort of changing and shifting from. And how this will look like will depend on the context, one, and it will also depend on what you want to achieve during this season and the sacrifices that you're willing to make. I believe in previous episodes we've talked about how you might just need to make a tough choice of saying it is what it is, and I'm making room. For example, during the last episode, I'm making room for the things that I've been praying for, and what this means is decluttering my life, maybe ending some friendships, making those changes, and to just practice gratitude and make sure that we are staying committed. So how this will look like, it's up to you. Depending on your priorities, you just look at that and decide what it is that you're going to cut off unapologetically and what needs a conversation. There is a very interesting episode recorded rather by Dr. Darius Daniels, who's one of the mentors that I absolutely admire. And he was talking about how some conversations some shifts in life and relationships and connections and friendships cannot happen without having certain conversations. So you might want to be sure that you make room to have conversations, for example, with the friends, so that you extend a certain level of understanding, so they know that it's not personal, it's not about them. But what if it is actually about them? Maybe they have been putting you down, or they're not interested in making some changes or being a part of lifestyles. For example, I'm very particular and straight lined about the things that I like, but I try to open myself up to other lifestyles of other people, different kinds of foods, the places they go to, so that I can have a taste of what it feels like to be, for example, my friend, or to encourage them, maybe go to an event, their work event, just so they also feel encouraged. So it really depends on the people that you have around you and the level of sacrifice that they're willing to make. But ultimately, if some of these changes are changes that you instigated by yourself because you saw that it was good and worthy, then it just means it's time to put your foot down. And I totally feel you, because it can make you anxious. You can start to have questions. Was it worth it? But if you go back to your baseline, I remember last week we were talking about setting intentions. If you go back to your baseline and you realize, this was my intention was X and Y, and the consequences are looking like, this and that. Some I anticipated, some I did not. How can you make room to make sure that you end this chapter in a way, you end what needs to end, you shift what needs to shift, and you start what needs to start, right? Because life is short. Sometimes we assume that we are going to be here forever, that days are promised, and it's not accurate, because you just don't know. So every moment has to count. So to you, Abu Bakr, I would say, just figure out what needs conversation, what doesn't need conversation. People say that you need to talk, I don't know, things about silent treatment, but my personal conviction is that everything doesn't have to be a conversation. There are people who do not have the emotional maturity to handle some conversations without personalizing that and making it about them and starting to attack you, manipulate. So I pick these kinds of things with a lot of thought and wisdom and contemplation. I'm not about to get into a full blown argument because of changes that I have made, because my understanding of a person is that I've not experienced them to be emotionally mature to have certain conversations with me. But if you feel that someone can, there are many ways. People write letters. Um, I've had a friend tell me their ex sent them an email to sort of express them. So there's just a lot that you can do, and picking the environment and deciding what needs a conversation and what is just, slow ghost and other things. Yeah, so later on, I'm hoping that we can talk about some suggestions of how to handle ending chapters with grace. Because for me, this is a conversation about grief. How do you accept what is leaving, what's gone, and open yourself up to a new chapter? So I have another question from Talia from Namibia. And she says, the time has come for me to comfortably take on a dream role in a tech company that I have always wanted to work for, but it seems to not be as well accepted by some family and friends as I expected. Shall I remain humble and quiet about my joy for the new good things, or just cut them all off? It's a bit complex. Ooh, c'est compliqué. Again, I feel you, Talia, and I understand. And congratulations, actually, to you, Talia, and to you, Abu Bakr, for accepting change, opening yourself up to change, and opening yourself up to leveling up. This is not a small feat. It's not a feat for the weak. It's a feat for the bold and courageous. And so I encourage you to really look at the situation as it is. Sometimes I tell myself, when something great happens, what does it add to me when I tell other people? And why am I telling them? Is it because I want their validation, their praise? Is it because I want to share the moment with them? Like, why am I telling them? And once I have that answer, then I'm able to determine to see my intentions for what they are and just decide, sometimes it's okay to just, get dressed up and go and put together a small celebration just for you. Have your favorite meal, or even go to a movie. Just that I appreciate me for being me, huh? It's kind of vibe, right? um and it's sad sometimes, because you said as I expected, so it looks like these are people who maybe have had your corner, you shared important parts of your lives with each other, but then all of a sudden they're not seeming so happy for you as you would expect. So for me, I see it as an invitation to see people for who they are, because love, love molds, and it molds into different seasons, into different perspectives, and it's up to the person to make a decision that they're going to accept your transition for what it is, and that they will give you room either to celebrate with you, or if it's not working out for the both of you, it's okay to give people distance, because as you said, this is a dream role. It's a dream company. This has been a journey. For them to accept it means you probably worked on yourself, you upskilled, and you're not about to put together all the hours that you spent in leveling up to get these other people to be comfortable enough to say congratulations, or get you a gift, or take care. I mean, girl, listen, I don't know if it's worth what we often say, like setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. So I'd invite you to look at your expectations, and evaluate them, because sometimes we are coming from a place where no one has seen the achievements that we are experiencing, and it's scary for them. They're in shock, because they're like, wow, so this thing, we don't just see it on TV. I now know someone who's achieved this, who can do this. And how do they handle that? So sometimes it's their own grief. They're grieving their own grief, sorry. They're grieving a part of you that they used to know. Now they need to embrace a new you. They are grieving old mindsets and perceptions and ceilings and limitations that you have now broken. They're grieving maybe, the level of work that they expected they would put in to get through life. Now they're seeing that, wow, there's a new possibility on the horizon. There's a new thing right in front of me, right in the neighborhood. And how can I partake in that grace and that blessing? And this can cause a lot of emotions. And so while we are encouraging you to learn your own process of grief and give yourself grace and take care of yourself, I think it's also good for us to take this moment to learn how to create room for other people to grieve and, be a part of the process. So it's all about, again, you going back to your intentions, looking at yourself, what is worth, having a conversation about what is worth just, I'm like, no, this is just flat out toxic. Like, this is just flat out jealousy, envy, and malice, and, condescending. And I'm not about that life. I'm about to go to my dream company and live out my best life, right? So, yeah, do just sit down with yourself, look at your expectations, the people around you who can logically meet that. Are there things that, God is the only person who can meet them, that you're expecting these ones to meet, and how can you reconcile the two? Um, yeah, so that's what I will say. But again, guys, grieving and ending chapters of our lives with grace is a deeply personal and often challenging process, because you're working with a lot. In 2022, I published a book on grief. It was called Trouble in Paradise. So grief and accepting some things as they are. I was personally transitioning through some things, and because of this hustle culture, we are taught to numb ourselves out of some things. Just don't see, hear nothing, say nothing, feel nothing, right? And so I was coming into a season of grief, and I didn't even know I was grieving, because I had not been familiar with how I show up when I'm grieving, when I'm anxious, when I'm afraid, when I'm scared. and I was learning myself in that moment. I was seeing things that I'd never seen before. And so I had to take time with myself and really bow in to the presence of the Lord and understand like what is really happening here. We were just coming out of COVID, and I had for the first time been invited to the Commonwealth Heads of State Government as a moderator. I was going to be on stage with heads of state, and I was very nervous. I was like, has this been waiting for me all this while? And did I do well? Like uh, coming out and doing the things that I actually believe that I'm passionate in, because it was youth engagement activities rather. And so I've come from this lockdown where there was a lot of transition and awakenings and just seeing myself in a different light. And then I've lost a family member to COVID. Then I'm out here in this state. So how do I bring all this together, and what does that communicate about where I am in life? How do my relationships and friendships change? Because now I'm making new connections and I really want to prosper, right? And so that book was written out of a place of a personal experience, and you can look for it. It's available on Amazon, and it's also available on the Storybook Africa website. That's www.thestorybook.whitneymwangi.com, and then slash shop. So I prefer the version that is on the Storybook website because it has workbooks with a couple of questions and reflection points that you can utilize to think about, just process with yourself through grief. And I also published a set of affirmation cards for a month, I believe, for a month, which can also help you ground yourself in terms when you're scared, you look at the changes you're making, you're like, wow, I don't even recognize myself.
Don't you just love stories? Stories shape how we understand the world, our place in it, and our ability to change it. We are all products of our backgrounds, perceptions, and experiences, which form how we interpret the world. So we all have unique stories to share. You too can inspire the world with your story. The Storybook Africa accepts stories under 3 categories all year round: Young and on Fire, Note to Younger Self, and Dear Diary. You can also join us to transform the lives of youth in Africa by 1. Participating in youth empowerment projects we run, through which we partner with businesses owned by young Africans to host events, run campaigns, or award grants for business expansion. 2. Submitting or buying a digital product from our e-shop, which is a hub of amazing items that can support the community's healing, growth, and development journey crafted by young Africans. Excited to partner with us? Visit our website today for more information: www.thestorybook.whitneymwangi.com.
And it will happen, because I remember, like, post-COVID, I had been with myself for quite some time. I think I worked in the house for maybe 1.5 years or 2 years, and I was just with my dog. And God was really working on me in terms of my identity and the things that I had placed my value in: my job, my ability to earn high income, maybe from businesses and other investments and etc. The friendships that I had, the connections, how I thought about love and how I thought about myself. And God was really changing a lot of that, because He wanted me to be really rooted and anchored in Him, such that if any of those dimensions change, I still remain authentically with me, who loves and values myself and the people around me outside of this materialistic or fleeting or temporary, things. It doesn't mean that they're not important. Jobs are important, money is important, love is important. But I was going at it the wrong way. My intentions were not very, let's call them healthy. They were not very healthy, right? When you're growing, you sort of want to have that validation and acceptance from other people. So you do all kinds of things just to make sure that you are worthy in the eyes of external people, to have, their respect, their honor. Ooh, but those towers can tumbling down really fast, like really fast. So I had to grieve all that, and it's easier said than done, because when you've established your power and your value upon some things, maybe these friendships that Abubakar and you, Talia, you have, or maybe your job is your source of identity. When that comes tumbling down, it can sort of feel like your whole life is ending, right? Like now you have to start learning yourself. And what if you see things you don't like? What if you realize that, or what if you realize that you're actually great? Like all these fears come in, of being less than, or having a power and a confidence that you'll now have to step into, you can no longer ignore. And what will that mean for the relationships around you that have been um, established around your weaknesses, around your incapabilities and limitations? What happens to them? And yet you're attached to all these people. So grief is not a small matter, especially if you don't want to do it, or if you're coming from a history of abandonment and neglect. It's just not easy. You feel like you're going through the same wound over and over. But I say take courage. In my opinion, you must dissect the matter. You have to reconcile the matter with your intentions and who you are and where you want to go, and then accept what the consequences will look like and take it from there. Of course, as we said, this varies from context to context, and you may need to talk this through with a therapist, a coach, or a mentor to just unpack the specific situation and the best way forward, depending on who you are and what you want. But here are some overall steps and suggestions that I may offer, extend to all of you, um, when it comes to ending chapters with grace. As we said, acknowledge your feelings. Allow yourself to feel the emotions that come with the ending of a chapter. This could look like sadness, anger, relief, mix of emotions. Recognize that it's okay to feel what you're feeling, because, again, as I mentioned earlier, with this culture of numbing and not feeling things for what they are, you sort of end up downplaying or ignoring your feelings and going to do other things, watching TV, binge eating, or um, going to the club, over party, just anything to distract yourself so you don't acknowledge the feeling. Sometimes people even feel shame, regret, uh, depending on how the chapter is coming to an end. So it's okay to just dissect these feelings, name them for what they are, and then acknowledge that you're feeling that, and then you can take it from there and give yourself time. Understand that you're grieving, and closure takes time. Every timeline doesn't need to be the same. I remember talking to a friend of mine, and he was upset because his relationship had just ended, and another mutual friend of ours apparently said that she had seen that coming. And she didn't understand why this guy was so upset. She was telling him, like, be a man, take peace. Why are you moping the whole time? um and I was saying to him, it's not a gender thing, honestly, because grieving looks different for different people. So don't rush yourself or expect to feel better overnight. Sometimes you may feel better about a situation, and then you go somewhere or have an interaction, and then all of a sudden you're triggered, and that changes everything. For example, guys, I don't know why watching these love and relationship shows like is so triggering for me. I was watching Love is Blind, just the recent season. I think it's season 6. Wow, guys, it was so triggering for me. I had to stop and wait and come back to it the next day. And even at some point, I would ask myself, do I need to watch this series? Like, is it necessary? But the drama keeps you coming back. It keeps you coming back. So yeah, but I had to have conversations myself, like what is it that's triggering me? I see some characters, like when some men do some things, it reminds me of some things in the past, and I'm like all of a sudden just not happy, interested in that movie, or I'm in my feelings. So, just allowing yourself time and space to process your emotions in a healthy way, that when you come out of that moment of grieving and closure, you'll be better than you went in. You'll be ready and stronger. Then reflect on the chapter. Take some time to reflect on what it was, and what you learned from it. What were the highlights, the low points? Reflect, how you gained closure, perspective. I'm sure it was not all doom and gloom. And if it was, like, what parts of you were drawn to that season, to that person, to that chapter? What parts of you showed up during that chapter that maybe you don't want to take with you? And what can you learn from that? Then express gratitude. Find things that you're grateful for from that chapter of your life ending. Again, the highlights, the low points. How did they make you stronger? This could have been experiences, lessons you learned, relationships you had. Expressing gratitude does certainly help you shift your focus from what you're losing to what you're going to gain, and then just milk the positives, and that could lead you to a place to be ready to say goodbye. It can be helpful to symbolically say goodbye. Sometimes I even buy actual physical gifts for the person and give it to them. I may not say goodbye, but I will pray over it, and I will have a conversation with them. I'll thank them for who they've been. Maybe somehow they will understand that it's a goodbye, and if the conversation does get there, I will certainly say the goodbye. Well, say goodbye. Could be writing a letter to myself or to that chapter, or holding like some kind of just a ceremony, maybe going out for a drink that I like, or just taking a moment to be with myself, like take a walk, just to say um, goodbye and so long, and it's been well. Then seek support. In the beginning, we said it's important to talk through your season of change and ending chapter with a therapist, coach, or mentor to just unpack your specific situation. Um, don't be afraid to reach out. Some things need friends, some things need professional support. So, talking to someone, it can give you perspective and help you care for one another, because when people open up to each other, it helps strengthen the bond, but not emotional dumping, eh? I mean, like asking the person if it's a good time to talk and setting up some proper time where you have their undivided attention. And from there, I believe that you'll be ready to focus on the future. Well, it's important to acknowledge where you are, the grief you're feeling, your emotions, the time you need, reflecting on the chapter, thinking about the good moments and saying goodbye, and also who can support you. I think it's also important to look forward to the future. You need to think about what you want to accomplish in the future and focus on that. I make lots of fun that when I'm getting stressed up in the gym, I just think about my dream some board that I want to have, and that usually gets me going. And then just take care of yourself, and not momentarily, but on an everyday basis. Honestly, guys, even just coming home, wearing a gown, putting on a show, or just something soothing, and laying on my couch after a long day of work, oof, it's been so self-soothing. Like, it communicates to me that I'm a priority, that I matter, and I need to be feeling like my best self. So make yourself a priority as you navigate the end of a chapter. It's a tough time where you need lots of embraces and hugs and comfort from the Lord and all that. You can include activities like exercise, spending time with loved ones, just sitting in quiet, meditation, and with yourself and your thoughts. And then, of course, to a healthy level, if you know that you're a person who ruminates and spirals into negative thoughts, and you start feeling anxious, maybe quiet meditation is not your style. For me, quiet meditation is my style. I like to just sit with myself in a very quiet space, maybe listen to some worship music, pray a little, journal, and just feel better. And it always get me out of a funk. Then you can engage in a hobby that brings you joy. I'm loving learning languages these days and swimming. It really gets my mind off things, and when I make those funny pronunciations, I just start to laugh at myself. Yeah. Yeah, so guys, that's that from me. These are the steps and suggestions I would extend to you. Thank you to Abu Bakr and Talia for those questions, because they've sort of set perspective on for us as we're ending a chapter, as we're ending the month, as we're ending Q1. as we are looking at the next steps of the year. We are hoping and praying that our best days are ahead of us, that we are moving from glory to glory, and that our good Lord has good plans for us to prosper us and bring us a good future and hope. So we are focused on that. So remember to acknowledge your feelings, dissect where you are. Remember to give yourself some time, to show yourself some love as you reflect on the different chapter. If it means walking the journey by yourself with the support of friends or therapists, still okay. Remember to express gratitude. Remember to say goodbye to what needs to, be bid farewell. And remember to seek the support that you need, focus on your future, and take care of yourself. Here at the Storybook, we advocate for healing, growth, and development for young people in Africa. And that's why we're here, so we can support you through that journey. So just be sure to connect with us across all our pages. Continue to share your questions to info@thestorybook.whitneymwangi.com, or you can drop them in the DMs. And then every Saturday I'll be coming on here I group the questions so we can have a theme and we can talk about the things that matter to us here at the Storybook. We have an exciting live coming up next week on the 2nd of April. New month, new things. I'm pretty excited about that. So I hope that we will see you on that live. The conversation will be with Wakili Nelly Maina. She's the founder of Guys Let's Talk. She's a mental health advocate from Kenya. And the conversation will be about finding your inner strength, self-love, and mental well-being. Doesn't this sound exciting? I'm personally excited to talk to her because they're doing a lot of amazing things. So the live will be on Instagram. That's at the storybook_AF, standing for Africa. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you on there and just listening to you guys. It's been a true pleasure talking to you. This is Whitney, the Storybook, the founder of the Storybook Africa. It's always my pleasure to start my weekend with you. Remember that everyone's journey is different and there's no right or wrong way to grieve or end a chapter of your life. But what we're asking is that you're able to end it with grace, either for you or the others, and allow yourself the space and grace to navigate this process of grieving in a way that feels authentic to you. We are all about the authenticity, right? Set your heart right, set your intentions right, guard your heart, ladies and gentlemen, because this is where all things of life flow from. Yeah. So take care. Ciao a tutti. Enjoy your weekend and see you next week. Same place, same time. Au revoir.
So that's our story. What's yours? Be sure to connect with us on social media at The Storybook Africa on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or at The Storybook_AF on Instagram and X. Subscribe to the Storybook Africa podcast today on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until we meet again, keep writing your own story, and may it be a testament to your limitless potential. Hakuna Matata for now, and remember, your story matters.